AG. Very nice of you to stop by. We appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me. All right, this is exciting, man. I'm looking forward to this.
I heard you're a tenacious basketball player. I heard back in the day in Portland that Coach Glenn, EA, Sal Palantonio, and the local beat would get into it in terms of the hardwood. I want to hear from you. How intense were the games and how intense were you in those games?
I'll put it like this. If I can take all those men and put them on the team, because of how highly competitive they were, I'll take them. I'll put it like that.
And what's this?
Those were exciting times, man. And we used to get after it.
I'm sure you did. What's AG the basketball player like?
The point guard.
Point guard. That's right.
Listen, dribble drive. Right, that's what I'm good at. Spot up three every now and then. All right, from the corner. Right, that's my shot. Yeah. And play defense.
Tenacious defender. Tenacious defender. Get after everybody. He's the kind of guy who's like, you're playing intramural ball or you're going across the street and you're playing. He's picking you up full court.
There it is. You have to.
And then he's in your ear.
What was that? Who was the coach from Arkansas?
I know who you're talking about. Nolan Richardson.
Nolan Richardson.
40 minutes of hell.
40 minutes of hell.
That's what you're going to bring to the football field.
No
we know
doubt.
that. So your combine,
yeah,
1994, that was at the old Hoosier Dome.
Yep, yeah.
What are your memories coming out of A&M?
I remember just answering a lot of questions about who I was as a person, personality, demeanor, the medical. All right, and then the train station was out of control back then. But it was a good time. Man, I was grateful to be in that situation. And I just remember Antonio Langham. He was a good friend of mine. He actually got drafted before me, which still pisses me off.
Of course it does.
But man, it was an exciting time. So, man, I have a lot of respect for these players at the combine, know exactly what they're going through. And listen, you have to relish every moment of it because this is one time in your life that you get a chance to experience this. So, but man, I always tell those guys, put your best foot forward. All right, and any questions, don't hide anything because we already know it anyway. All right, but don't hide anything from any coach or the scouts and just and be ready to compete more than anything. Go out there and compete.
We got a lot of questions about the current roster, but Randy Lang, who you know well, sent me this today. He said that you were reported being clocked at 4.2 seconds at a private workout before the draft with 4.3 and 4.39 other non-combine times. But also, did you take part in the bench press 225 9 times? Is that right?
You know what? I thought I did 12 times.
Okay. All right. We're going to take that number.
Don't cheat me those 3.
We're going to take that. Yeah. But you ran at a 4.2.
I ran a 4.2. I think it was a 4.27, and I think my other one was a 4.32. And that's what I knew I could do. I can run. All right, I can run. I can cover receivers.
Yeah.
All right, and listen, I want to show that I can do that. And to me, if you're fast, you're fast. So go run. Yeah. All right, so that's why when a lot of guys that don't run at the combine, I'm like, wow, you fast already. So just show them that you could do it.
Yeah.
All right, so and I want to show everybody I can do that. And I want to show everybody I can cover receivers just by my tape also, and I can catch the ball.
What do you try to figure out about these college prospects while you're here? Obviously, like you said, the 40 speaks for itself. But when you get these, are you the type of person that leans more to the tape, or are you trying to get to know them as a person?
Well, I think that's important to lean to the tape, but it's also important to get a chance to know the demeanor of the player, or his personality. How they go about seeing football, how smart are they, how can they adjust to things that's on tape that when we show them, and even if it's things that they really don't know, do they just understand football? All right, and I think that's been the most important part for us as a staff to try to figure those things out. But the demeanor of the player is really, really important to me because there's just something about the mentality, especially at certain positions, all right, that you want to see. So I try to figure it out as much as I can by just sitting back and just watching the player and how they operate. I like to poke and prod the player a little bit, too, to see how they operate.
I'm not surprised by that.
How excited are you about this coaching staff that you've assembled?
Very excited. I said this statement before, is compatibility is sometimes as important as coachability. And that's the one thing that I tried to do, right, when I was trying to assemble this staff. And I want to make sure I took my time in doing that because I want to make sure that every coach on this staff is going to give us the best chance to win and be able to coach the player, right? That's what's important to me, man. How are the players going to relate, right, to all these coaches? And And listen, every coach I have is not the biggest name coach, right? And that's and I actually like that because I think a lot of times in this arena we just go get name coaches, right? But there's a lot of good coaches in this league, from high school to Division II to the big colleges, even some of the assistants on other teams. And I try to make sure I vet that out as much as I could.
You said you have a lot of similarities with Steve Wilkes.
Yeah.
Can you talk about those similarities and why is he going to be such a valuable commodity for you?
Steve Wilkes is a straight shooter. He doesn't pull any punches with anybody. And it is what it is. And I think that's what players relate to more than anything. Players don't like to be lied to. Players want to know the truth, even though the truth sometimes can be hurtful, all right? But the thing is, at least they know exactly what they got to change. But I would say this. It's not just giving players the truth, but it's also giving them a solution on how we're going to fix it. And he does a really good job of that. And those are some of the things that we have in line, right, when talking to players. He's been there a while, and he's been a head coach, which is important for me when I need questions, when I have questions, right, for what he's been through. So I'm looking forward to those questions to him.
I want to ask you about Chris Banjo.
Yeah.
Because he's so young. And this is a guy that you coached in New Orleans. Like, was there any moment for you when you were a coach in New Orleans that you thought maybe he would go down this path and eventually become a coordinator on special teams?
Listen, there was no doubt in my mind that Banjo was going to be a coach. Just sitting in defensive meetings, he was the guy that was sitting in the front of the room. He was the guy that would ask all the questions. Obviously, you know that there's questions that players want to ask, but they don't because they don't want to look bad in front of everybody else. But Banjo will be the one to ask those questions to make sure everyone knew exactly what we were doing. So there was no doubt in my mind that he would be a coach. But also, he was a Pro Bowl special teamer, right, for us in New Orleans. So, listen, he understood what his role was. And, listen, he didn't take that lightly. And I'm huge when it comes to special teams because it could really change the nature of a game, right, when you have a big-time special team play. And he's going to give that to us. So there's no better person for that job than Chris Banjo.
What about Tanner? And he was just part of that flip with you in Detroit.
No doubt.
And can you also speak to a right-hand man that he has, and much like you do on the defensive side, maybe with Wilkes, you bring in Scott Turner?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, listen, our offense in Detroit was something special to watch.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of hands that was in that to make it that way. And Ben would tell you that, too. As the offensive coordinator in Detroit, he would tell you. We had Steve Hyden, who's actually my O-line coach. And he is a O-line coach by nature. And he coached up tight ends for us then. But when you watch us practice, most of the tackles actually went to him to practice, all right? So he knows O-line play like the back of his hand, and that's who he is by nature again. And then Tanner did a lot when it comes to putting everything together to getting all these different guys on the team the ball, all right? Listen, there are a number of good players, offensive players on Detroit staff, from the running backs to the receivers to the tight ends. And it was his job to make sure, how do I feed all these guys? Yeah. And he gave that information to Ben, and then Ben put together as far as calling it. So Tanner had a huge hand on how we operate in Detroit, man. And he doesn't get a lot of respect for that, but you'll see that coming to this team.
Can you speak about the importance of speed, the speed that you brought to the game yourself, and also the speed that you guys were killing people with in Detroit?
Yeah, listen, and there were a number of guys that we actually scouted to play certain roles when it comes to that. Obviously, J-Mo, or as the receiver position, because he was able to clear everything out. And then we had one of the best slot receivers in Amon St. Brown, right, to be able to work the underneath. So that was a huge help. And then the 1-2 punch with the running backs that we had. Man, we had the hammer, right, and then we had the guy that could just take it to the house anytime he gets the ball. So I think speed puts fear in the defense, especially at the certain positions, but allows everybody else underneath to be able to work and be able to make plays.
Look, we could talk to you for hours about a number of different things, but I'm curious from your perspective. You get named head coach of the Jets.
Yep.
To develop relationships with players, are you trying to text as many people as possible and hear from players? Like, what's your process like at this time of the year where you're January, February, to start to get to know your guys?
Well, listen, just to call each one of those guys and just introduce myself. And more than anything, man, just be authentic. Just be myself. I think that's the one thing that players figure out really quick, if you're a fake or not. And that's something that they don't have to worry about with me, because I'm always going to be myself. Listen, I'm a very demanding coach, but I'm not demeaning. And I say that to every player. I will never disrespect them, but I'll let them know exactly where I stand. And I want to know where they stand, too. You know, so the communication between me and the players has been really, really good. And they appreciate that. You know, I'm not going to pull any punches with them. I'm going to let them know exactly how I feel, exactly how I want to run things, and then we just go from there.
It's a ways away, but have you envisioned in your mind what it's going to be like leading this team out at MetLife Stadium in front of these fans? This is where you started your career, and you were raised in Texas.
Yeah.
But you do have a New York mentality in terms of putting a hard hat on,
no doubt,
getting to work, getting after it, and you should expect a certain amount, a certain standard from us.
Listen, it gets. I'll be honest with you, and I had this conversation with my wife maybe a week ago, and it gets pretty emotional, right? When I think about it, think about this first game of really actually coming out and in front of this team, knowing I'm the head coach of this team. I don't know what my reactions would be. I'm actually looking forward to it. But you're right, man. We're going to put our hard hat on. That's one thing about a New York Jet. We are a blue-collar operation. And, listen, only thing we know is how to go to work. And that's all we're going to do. From the time they come back, you know, when we start our off-season program, to the time we get on the field for OTAs, to the time we come back for training camp, and to the time we play that first game. We're going to be a blue-collar mentality. And one thing that we're going to do, we're going to outwork people, all right, because that's all we're going to know, right? And I'm looking forward to that.
Have you taken a breath at all since you've been hired as coach? I mean, you're talking about 4 a.m., working out, getting after it, meeting people, getting to know players. Like, do you take a time to reflect?
I haven't just yet. All right, listen, my hobby outside of football is golf.
Very nice.
And I'm not saying I'm the best player in golf, but I tell you what, I'm going to compete my ass off when it comes to it. All right, so, but, man, I'm just telling you this. I'm so grateful to be in this position. I really am, and with this team, and I think everybody knows I love this team, and it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. It was meant to be. Just like, you know, when getting ready to come out for that first game, I'm looking forward to that. But I'm excited about this opportunity. I really am.
Well, you got some busy days ahead. Is it March 10th? Negotiating period starts. Yeah. Free agents. I know you're talking to your own internal free agents. You're here for the draft.
Yes.
A lot of work to be done.
It is. There's a lot of work to be done. And me and Mougey are going to put our best foot forward to make sure we build this team the right way. And each step, all right, we have a plan, and there's a process on how we want to make sure we get things done. And listen, the greatest thing about what's been happening also, and I didn't even mention this, is just the communication that me and Mougey has been having throughout this process has been outstanding. He's a very bright man. We see things exactly alike, right? Even though that sometimes we may different on opinions when it comes to a player, which is a good thing because no one wants groupthink. All right, and I think that's how you get the players right when you do have difference of opinions. But the thing is, man, we're going to go in the room. We're going to make sure we get the player right, make sure we get the best player that's going to fit this team. And that's what it's all about, right? No matter what, when it comes to coaches, when it comes to hiring scouts, just anybody within this organization, man, we're going to make sure we get the guy right.
Well, there's no better way to end your time on live from the Combine, presented by Moody's, with what you just said. So, Coach, we appreciate you taking a couple minutes on a very busy week to spend some time with us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I get passionate when I get to talk about this. You guys gotta know. I get fired up, but I love it, man. I really do.
Here inside the convention center is Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, joining us batting leadoff here, Jets General Manager Darren Mougey. Mougey, nice of you to join us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys having me.
What's it been like the past month or so?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind. It's been a blur, but it's been really good, and just getting more and more comfortable every day in the building, around the people, and getting to know the coaches. So it's been really good.
Well, we won't blame you if you don't remember our names in like a couple days, because I figured you have to introduce yourself.
Should be wearing name tags out here.
Yeah, but really, because like, what is this process like for you to not only move across the country, but to get scouting staff together, learn how they evaluate, and marry that with what you want to implement here at the Jets?
Yeah, it has been, to start, a lot of names and faces. I'm still learning every day. But it's been exciting. I mean, it's what I love to do. It's my passion. So when I get to jump into the football stuff with the staff and the scouting, I kind of get lost in it. And I forget that I'm in Jersey. I forget that I'm away from the family, and I'm just in the work with the staff and getting to know them and just kind of buried in the football. It's what I love. So it's been awesome.
One thing that has become clear to me over the last few weeks is that you and Aaron Glenn are together in lockstep. Can you talk about your relationship and why you guys have hit it off so well, and why you're so excited about the future?
Yeah, I think it's been really natural. I think I touched on it in the opening presser. I got a chance to meet Aaron years ago in that interview process where we actually interviewed him for the potential head coaching job in Denver. And I knew right then just his passion for the game, his authenticity, that he was going to be someone that I'd always kind of click with. And then going through the interview process with the Jets and getting to talk to him again, it's been seamless and it's been really natural. He and I obviously have a lot of dialogue every day, throughout the day. Our staffs have worked very closely, collaborative in this short time already, and look forward to that continuing as we go through these processes, free agency and the draft process.
So, obviously, without giving away state secrets, what are the topics of the conversations that have taken place between yourself and AG over the last month?
Roster building, what we're going to look for in certain players at certain positions, but just high level. It's guys that love football, physical players, smart, tough, just establishing an identity for the Jets and our team.
How important have those meetings been with the coaching staff? You guys, most notably, AG brings in Steve Wilkes, Tanner Engstrand, and then also Chris Banjo is going to be heading up the special teams. But when you get the scouting staff together with the coaches and they discuss characteristics that they're looking for in a player, how important is that? How valuable is that?
It's very important. It's important that the scouts have a clear vision of what we're kind of looking or hunting for, right? And it's important that with every player we bring into the building, there's a clear vision and understanding of what this player is here to do, things that that player may need to work on, and the type of person we're getting. So it's a collaborative effort with the coaches and the scouts. It started early. I just said it in the presser at the podium. Once we had that staff in place, one of the first things we did was we got the coaches and the scouts together to talk about what we're looking for in Jets players, the makeup, the specific position characteristics, and some schematic stuff. So we're all on the same page when we get into this free agency and the draft process and we're talking players. There's that clear kind of picture and expectation of what we're asking these guys to do.
How do you go about just managing your day on a day-to-day basis between meeting everybody, free agencies around the corner, even though this is a draft event, and then in a couple months from now, it is, in fact, the draft. So how do you try to carve out time for the pro side and the draft side and also just getting integrated?
Yeah, it's been a lot, but you just stay structured. I'm a very detailed, kind of organized type A person, so I like the structure. And when we have those things in place, it allows me to kind of jump back and forth with my different roles and responsibilities that I'm kind of tackling right now. But we have a detailed calendar with these specific times where we're jumping into these evaluation processes.
What's your thoughts, since we're here in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, what's your thoughts on the positioning here early in the draft, number 7 overall? And then you were just asked about it. Would you be willing to move up or move back if the right offer presented itself?
Yeah, I'm excited about being at 7. There's a lot of good players in this draft. You never know how it's going to fall, but definitely open where we stand today to potentially moving up, potentially moving back, just depending on the type of player that's there and where we're at.
And I know you were asked about this as well, but what are your early impressions of the strengths of this draft class in 2025?
I think it's a good draft class. I think in particular the D-line is strong, stronger than years past. The running back group is good, but there's good players at every position kind of throughout the draft from what I've seen thus far.
You have more than, it's close to 30 free agents in all. If you include the unrestricted free agents, you had RFAs, exclusives. How do you go about that, looking internally what you guys have on the roster before you start that negotiating window on March 10th and then free agency starting on March 12th?
Absolutely. It's a process, and I'm excited about a lot of the guys we have here on this Jets team and the potential free agents. But, I just said at the podium, part of that process was letting the coaches eval the roster, the scouts diving into it, and then getting together collectively as a group, both the coaches, the pro scouts, the analytics department, and talking about our roster, our potential Jets free agents, the market, what that looks like, and how it'll piece together. And you have a preliminary plan, but, we'll just see how the market unfolds.
Since we are here in Indianapolis, what is the most beneficial part of this week for you, in your eyes?
I think it's a great opportunity to get around these young players. Any touch point we get with these guys, we should take advantage, and we're doing that with the with the formal interviews that started last night and the informals. Like I said, every chance we get around these young players and learn them as people and kind of get into their mind and how they think and their capacity with FBI is a great opportunity, and I'm glad we're here.
How would you describe the current landscape at the quarterback position for this organization? You guys formally announced it very recently, your intention to move on from Aaron Rodgers. You have Tyrod Taylor on the roster, as well as Jordan Travis and Adrian Martinez. But, again, free agency on the horizon and the draft as well.
Yeah, we'll explore all those options. There's a lot of intriguing players in this draft, some good talented players in the draft at quarterback as well. And then in free agency, you said it, we'll exhaust all those options. But really excited of who we have in the building right now, starting with Tyrod, a guy that's been around the league, been in the league for a long time, has a great reputation. I've got the opportunity to talk to him a few times, and it's been great. So I'm glad we have Tyrod in the building, but we'll exhaust all options.
You know, we have a couple minutes with you left on live from the Combine presented by Moody's. I want to ask you a non-football related question because I feel like you've been up to 2 podiums now since being hired. It's all football. I have a non-football related question. What do you like to do for fun? Like when you're not in film, when you're not studying the roster, meeting us here at the Combine, like what does Darren Mougey like to do to relax?
I'm going to sound so boring when I say this, but really I'm like all in on the job. I spend almost all of my time, and when I don't, I like to spend free time with my family and my young kids. I got 2 young kids, 6 and 3. My son Emmett is 6, my daughter Marlo is 3, and my wife Hannah. So anytime I get a chance to be away from it, I like to just be engaged with the family, doing whatever family stuff, hanging around the house and playing with the kids.
I love that answer.
It's not a boring answer. It's the right answer.
No, that's
I just don't have
proper.
any real hobbies or anything fun to share with you.
All right, let's go back to your college days. San Diego State. What happened? You go there at quarterback position. I guess you were unseated by a guy by the name of Kevin O'Connell, and then you finished up as a receiver?
I did, yeah. So I got there as a quarterback, competed with Kevin. Eventually, when he won the job, I wanted to get on the field. So whatever I could do, I actually still prepped in the quarterback room, but was playing wide out on game days. So made the transition, to wide receiver, but kind of still took practice reps at quarterback and had that for a few years. And then got sandwiched between Kevin O'Connell and Ryan Lindley. So 2 pretty good ones. Fun fact also that I think some know, Tanner Engstrand was actually in that room with us for a few years at San Diego State. So it was a good room with Kevin, Tanner, myself, Ryan Lindley.
Is it weird for you now having one, like at that time, you're now on the same team with the new offensive coordinator, and also, like, did you and Kevin ever envision this for yourselves, like to go into the coaching and the general managing side of things?
I don't know. No, I don't know that we ever envisioned it or really talked about it, but obviously we both had high passion for the game, loved the game, kind of knew we'd always be in it, and this is where our path took us, so it's unique.
Well, give us a scouting report on Mougey, the player, coming out at receiver.
Not good enough. Let's just say not good enough to play in the NFL.
Big red zone threat?
Possession, wide out, typical. You could write the script right now.
Yeah. Right? What about the high school report, though, for the quarterback?
Yeah, dual threat quarterback, athlete,
All right.
Formal interview is going to continue. Workouts, obviously, later this week. Don't give away state secrets here, but what do you want to get out of a player when you do have that limited exposure with them in a formal setting?
Yeah, in the formal setting, we just really want to get a good feel for the person, the personality. Is he going to be a fit for our building, for our staff, for our current roster? Is he going to come in and fit the culture? And then also really kind of diving into his FBI, his mental capacity, his knowledge of the game. It's hard to tell in the short time, but you can get a good feel for some of these young players in that setting. And like I said, every touch point we get, we're going to take advantage of. So we just get a better feel and exposure.
All right, there you have it. Darren Mougey live from the Combine presented by Moody's.